Hello and welcome back to another 13 days of Craftoween video. Today's card will showcase days 5 and 10 along with 2 sentiments from the stamp set included in the kit. We will be recreating this card using the color orange instead of the red, and on this project I stamped the sentiment directly to the card instead of heat embossing. To get started, I will need to make a diagonal cut to the front of my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding card. Using a mini tape measure, I am going to place a mark at 2 1/2 inches. Then, using a T-square ruler, I am going to draw a diagonal line from the bottom of my card to my marked area. This will be my cut guide. Off screen, I will use the Tim Holtz rotary trimmer to make my cut. Make sure to save the bottom half for scraps. To save some time, I did pre-cut all my die cut pieces, and as always, the products used in today's video will be listed in the description box below. My grass was cut from black glitter cardstock using the Lawn Fawn grass border die. I will adhere the grass using the Simon Says Stamp liquid glue. Using the mini Misti, we are going to stamp our sentiment. Before I stamp, I found it easier to use some low-tack tape to help keep my card shut. To help line up my stamp, I am going to use the Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency. Once I have the perfect placement, I will use an anti-static powder tool so that way the powder only sticks to my stamped image. I will ink up my stamp using Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink, and I will pour black embossing powder from Gina K Designs. For unwanted powder, use a dry brush to gently brush away unwanted powder from your card. Next up is assembling the spider. I will be using my trusty Connect liquid adhesive from Gina K Designs and reverse tweezers to help assemble my die cuts. There will be a moment of silence while I glue all of my pieces together. Now it is time to work on our ink blended background. Before I get started, I need to make sure to protect the back half of the card. I found using Gina K Design's Masking Magic works great for this task. It is low tack and you can use it multiple times before you need to toss it. It also gives the best crisp line as you remove it from your project. I will be ink blending on top of my silicone mat by Waffle Flower. This mat is easy to clean and it helps prevent my paper from moving around. The inks I will be using are Distress Oxides in the color Twisted Citron, Mowed Lawn, and Rustic Wilderness. I will apply my inks with a blending brush. Once I'm done ink blending, I will spritz some water for added texture. And to save some time, I did speed up the ink blending. To add the spider webs to my background, I will be using the Pretty Pink Posh Spiderweb Stencil and Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment Ink. I will apply the ink using a pouncer, but I won't pounce directly on my ink pad. Instead, I will smush ink onto my glass mat. That way I don't contaminate my ink pad since the pouncer will pick up some of the green ink. I did tear off some painter's tape to use as guides, however, this card did not line up like my first card. That goes to show that even if you recreate a card, they don't always turn out exactly alike, and that's the beauty of handmade. This stencil is a two-piece layering stencil, the first stencil being the webs, and the second are spiders. To add the spiders, I will use Distressed Texture Paste in the color Black Opaque. This will give our spiders some dimension and it does dry to a matte finish. Once you are done with your paste, make sure to clean your tools right away, or you can place them in warm soapy water until you have time to clean them. Now it is time to remove the masking magic. Look how wonderful this mask works. Beautiful crisp line, easy to use, and it even behaved with some of the paste that was on it. To To assemble my flower, I'm going to continue to use my Connect liquid adhesive and some reverse tweezers. I did cut a strip of orange glitter cardstock to, I believe it was about 1/8 of an inch, but you could cut your strip to any width of your choosing. You just want to make sure that it is smaller than your black strip. And then of course you want to cut off the excess that's hanging over the sides. Since my flower is hanging off the edge, I do bring in these 3D foam squares to fill in the gap between the flower and that black strip. This will help stabilize the flower. To adhere the spider, I'm going to use some 3D foam tape, and I'm going to add that directly behind the body of the spider and to his hat. To give myself some wiggle room, I do add liquid adhesive to the back of my foam squares. This is so I can get the perfect placement. Foam squares and foam tape can be super sticky, so without the liquid adhesive, once you stick it down, it's pretty much permanent. I do glue down his front legs to the flower, but the rest of his legs are just dangling about. I also thought it'd be super cute if I added eyeballs to the other spiders, so I brought out some marshmallow pearls to add as eyes. For my sub-sentiment, I'm going to heat emboss the word boo. And in order to do so, we are going to bring in the Misti. We're going to prep our cardstock with the anti-static powder tool, stamp with Versamark ink, clear sticky ink, and then I will use white embossing powder. The white embossing powder I use is from Gina K Designs, but you could use any powder that you may have in your stash. I will be using my Gina K Designs Sentiment Strip die set. Now, you can tell that this die strip, it is the smallest in this set, but it's also too large for a sub-sentiment. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the sentiment, and then what we're going to do is we are going to line up the edge of the die with the exclamation point. And because we just cut this out, it's going to pop in just like a puzzle piece. And that's how you can modify your dies to match your sentiment, the length of your sentiment at least. So another trick I like to do with my sentiment strips is to take a bone folder and rub out the curve that is created when using the die. And then we'll just use a thin 3D foam square to pop up the sentiment on our card. Again, I will use liquid adhesive just for some wiggle room to make sure that my sentiment is nice and straight. This will complete today's card project. Thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you could please like and subscribe to my channel. And to all my existing subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support. And until next time, bye.